I have mentioned in a past video that I have an account on TikTok where I post studytok content. If you've ever been on that side of TikTok, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. The aesthetic notes, iPads, big libraries, all of it. I have been making that type of content for about a year and a half now, and honestly, it's been one of the coolest things I've ever done. I don't have a huge following, but I have a little over 17K followers on that account, which is a decent amount of people, in my opinion. I've met a lot of cool people, and it has opened a lot of doors for me that I never would have thought would come from TikTok. In a lot of ways, it has helped me become a more disciplined person, as well as with my confidence and letting go of other people's opinions about me. So, before I say anything else, I just want to preface that this video isn't about how study talk is bad or productivity is bad, because I don't believe that. I think that study talk has helped me, but I also think that it unintentionally reinforced a mindset that I already had that eventually became unhealthy. And it took me hitting a really low point in my life to realize that. In high school, I wasn't really the type of person to care about academics. I wasn't the best student and I didn't spend a lot of my time studying. Obviously, I wanted to do well. I wasn't failing any classes, but my personality didn't revolve around how well I was doing in school. I never would have imagined that I would end up making study talk videos. When I got to college, something shifted in me, and I started to put a lot of pressure on myself to succeed academically. I am privileged enough to be in a position where I do not have to pay my own tuition. My parents are helping me with that, and it's something that I didn't want to take for granted. I think another thing that contributed to the pressure was the fact that I am a biology major with a minor in physics, and for the first 2 years of my undergrad, I was on the pre medical track. I am no longer pre med, by the way, just to be fully transparent. During this time, I started to consume a lot of study talk content. It motivated me and it gave me accountability. I think it was really refreshing to see people put in work to achieve their goals, and it made me want to do the same. Eventually, I started making this content myself. And for the first year, I don't have anything bad to say about it. I really do think that it made me a better student. But I think something changed once I stopped just consuming this content and making it myself. I think the more that I posted, the more that I started to internalize the message behind my own content. I'll show an example of one of my videos here. At first, those videos were just documenting my life, but eventually they started to feel like the person I had to be. I don't know if anyone else who creates content has felt like this, but I started to feel like I had to be the type of person that people saw online. If I had a productive day, I felt really good about myself. If I had a day where I didn't get a lot done, I started to feel guilty. I definitely didn't realize it at the time, but I was starting to tie my self-worth to how productive I was. And then I entered my junior year of doom and despair. If I'm being honest, I think my fall semester of junior year was probably the worst my mental health has ever been. And I'm sure that the people that followed me on TikTok didn't know that. From the outside, everything looked fine. I was taking 18 credits. I was a TA. I was making study talk content. I was trying to keep up with everything. And I genuinely believed if I worked just a little harder, I could keep up with everything. But I couldn't. I would sit in the library for hours and hours and hours. Sometimes I would be there all day, but I was so mentally exhausted that I really wouldn't get anything done. And then I would go back to my apartment feeling guilty about not getting anything done. Even when I was with my friends, which was really rare because I didn't have the time, I wasn't present because I was constantly thinking about everything I had to get done. For me, the gym has always been a big emotional outlet for me, and I love going to the gym. But during this semester, going to the gym was something that I gave up because I felt as if every free hour I had to be spent studying. The moment I stopped going to the gym was when academics completely took over my life and became my entire identity, not just something that I cared about. I think one of the hardest parts about what was going on at the time was the fact that I felt like a fraud. Online, people saw someone that was motivated and disciplined, and people would leave comments like, "Oh, I wish I was as motivated as you," or "I wish I could study like you." And every time I read one of those comments, I felt guilty because behind the camera, I was falling apart. I tried really hard to maintain the image of someone who had it all together. I still posted aesthetic videos, I still posted time lapses. I'd still make it look like I had everything in control. But in reality, I felt like I was drowning in my own expectations. I felt like I created this version of myself online that I couldn't keep up with anymore. What made everything worse was I felt like I was putting in so much effort for nothing. That semester, I was working harder than I think I ever had before, and I couldn't produce the results to show for it. I was constantly studying, and I basically lived at the library. I remember one time that semester, my dad had called me, and I was at the library, and he made a joke. It was actually a pretty funny joke. He said, "Catherine, you are always at the library. Why do I even pay for housing if you aren't ever in your dorm?" Man, my dad's a funny guy. Despite the amount of effort I was putting in, I felt as if my results were mediocre. I couldn't understand it. I was putting in so much effort and I still felt like I was failing. And it really destroyed my confidence. Every bad grade I got started to become proof that I wasn't smart enough, or that maybe everyone else was better than me. Now I can acknowledge the fact that I wasn't falling behind because I was stupid. I was just exhausted. But at the time, I couldn't see that. I thought I just wasn't working hard enough. This is a trigger warning because I am briefly going to talk about suicidal thoughts. If this is a triggering topic for you, please skip ahead by a few minutes. I remember there was a moment from that semester that I don't think I'll ever forget. I had gotten the score back for an exam that I had spent weeks studying for. I genuinely don't think I could have studied any more for that exam than I did. And I failed it. I actually, straight up bombed. And I remember walking back into my apartment, closing the door, and having a full mental breakdown. I was pacing around my living room and I was sobbing. I really couldn't understand how I could put so much effort into something and still do so poorly. And in that moment, it wasn't about the exam anymore. It was about what I thought that grade said about me. I had tied so much of my identity to academic success that one bad exam grade made my identity completely fall apart. And mental health and depression is something that I have always struggled with. But at that point in my life, it had been a really long time since I had had any thoughts of taking my own life. But that was a moment where I thought about taking my own life. Reflecting back on that moment now is terrifying for me because no grade should have that much power over someone's life. No exam should be able to convince you that your life has less value. I don't share this moment because I want people to feel bad for me. I share it because I know that there are probably students out there who have experienced the same type of crushing pressure. And I really wish someone had told me that no achievement or no failure determines your worth as a person. I know now that study talk didn't cause any of this. I think that it amplified a mindset that was already there. Every time I opened my phone, I saw someone balancing perfect GPAs, internships, research, volunteering, and a social life. And even though I knew that what I was seeing was only highlights of someone's life, I still felt like that's what I needed to do. The more I watched and the more I posted, the more that I started believing that productivity wasn't something that I did. It was who I was. One thing that I've noticed over the past year is I have a tendency to tie my self-worth to something that can be measured. In my last video, I talk about how I tie a lot of my self-worth to my appearance. In this video, it's about my academics. I know that the problem was never beauty or school. Fire Deftones song, by the way. The problem was believing that I had to earn the right to feel worthy. And that's something I'm still trying to unlearn now. I'm still ambitious. I still love learning. I still care about doing well in school. And I still have really big goals for myself. None of that has changed. What's changing is the reason why I want those things. I don't want to spend the rest of my life believing that I have to earn the right to rest. I don't want one bad grade to determine my self-worth. I don't want every second of every day to be productive in order to feel valuable. I'm really trying to learn that me slowing down isn't being lazy, and that taking a break isn't quitting, and that my self-worth isn't something that I have to prove every day. Because if the only version of myself that I think deserves love is constantly achieving, constantly producing, constantly checking things off of a list, then I'm not allowing myself to be a human. I'm a robot. I'm definitely not completely there yet. I still have a lot of these bad habits. I still slip back into this mindset every once in a while. I'm really trying to become someone that isn't fueled by guilt, but by curiosity. Someone who works hard because I genuinely love learning, not because I have a perpetual fear of falling behind. I'm trying to believe that who I am has always been enough, even on the days where I don't get everything done.